Okay, good morning. Happy Monday to everybody. It is 10 a.m. on Monday. Welcome to our fourth in our ongoing series of downtown response and recovery sessions. Great to see so many of you here with us today. Thanks for being here. I hope you had a nice weekend and were able to enjoy Easter and the Passover holiday and the little bit of sunshine that we got. We are going to try to keep today's meeting to a quick hour, so there is a lot to cover in this time, but we'll go ahead and go through the deck right now. My name is Bettina Swigger, and I am the CEO of Downtown SLO, and also co-hosting this webinar type Zoom call. We have Garrett Olson of Resolute Associates, and Garrett is our consultant who Downtown SLO engaged in our strategic planning process about 5 months ago. And we're really glad that we've been working with Garrett. He's helped us pivot as we've moved our efforts from strategic planning to a response and recovery for COVID-19. Garrett, do you want to go through just a little bit of a Zoom housekeeping for everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully many of you are becoming really accustomed to Zoom, but just to share with you a little bit of information. Sometimes you don't know that your video is on, but if you open your laptop, it may be on automatically. So just be aware of that.
Michael, damn.
Click between speaker view and
join the meeting,
which is on most platforms in the upper right-hand corner. If you click, you can see the difference between the two. And if you have questions that you'd like to pose, what we're asking is that you post them for everybody. So you'd click on the chat icon at the very bottom of your screen, and then just send out a message to everybody, and you can ask your question. We'll be gathering questions throughout the call. We've got some folks that are going to provide some updates and some perspective. We're going to wait and answer questions until after that, because some of what they share with you may cause you to ask additional questions. So there'll be a time for us to ask those questions. If we don't get all of your questions answered in the amount of time that we have allotted for this, we'll loop back, and your questions will also help inform the agenda for next week's meeting. So thank you, Bettina.
Great. Thank you very much, Garrett. So now that you're all comfy in your Zoom world, just a little overview of what we're looking at with our response and recovery. And I want to be really clear about this, that we are very much still in the response phase. We are living through this reality in real time, and the facts and information changes daily. So we are following public health directives. And we are going to talk a little bit more about what that means specifically for our county in just a few minutes. We are in the information sharing phase. So as those pieces of information and those facts come out and change, we're trying to push those out in real time as much as possible to you. We're also navigating the complex waters of economic relief, and we think that this is coming, but this is not where we are yet. And we are looking down the line at recovery, but we're certainly not in recovery mode. So we're planning for recovery, but we're not there yet. I wanted to give you just a little bit of an update about the work that Downtown SLO is doing with downtowns across the United States. We have a shared membership with the International Downtown Association, that's IDA. We're also part of the California Downtown Association. And we're also very involved with Main Street America and the California Main Street Alliance. What this means is that we're connected to a network of people who are living through this in other communities. And we're able to share best practices and resources, and also have, frankly, some group therapy as we all go through this together. This morning, the National Main Street Association released the findings of a survey that they did. This is a quick and dirty survey that they did last week of 5,850 small business owners from around the country. These are people who came from more than 1,000 places across the United States, including large cities and small towns, and small cities like San Luis Obispo. They published the findings of this report in a report that came out this morning, and I'm hoping that we can push the link out in the chat for everybody. And when we share this information in our recorded YouTube session, we'll also share this link so that you can look through it. None of this is particularly news making, but it's nice to see the data quantified in a real sense. So We know that as small businesses are closed temporarily, there is a risk for them to close permanently if the crisis continues for several months. There are approximately 30 million small businesses, and a lot of those are at risk of closing permanently. I think that is also true for San Luis Obispo. The survey itself, as you can see, here's some details about the types of businesses that responded to this. Very much in line with our businesses in the downtown. 90% of the respondents had fewer than 20 employees. And while we do have a mix of small business and corporate-owned chains in the downtown, my understanding is that most of the people who are participating on this call are small business owners. So I hope that I am not making that, I think I'm accurate in that. If I'm not, please let us know. Oh, hi, Pat's son, Ryan. So fun to see your kids while you're working from home. So the survey also has some findings, not just that millions of businesses are at risk of closing, but it's going to be guiding our advocacy work as a sector as we're going forward through the next few months. So some of the policy implications for our state and federal agencies include things like the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, needs to expand technical assistance, not just to empower the SBDC, and we'll be hearing from Judy Mahan from the SBDC on a local level soon, but also about how to expand their websites, how to get billed cards, how to advocate for more of an online presence, and also advocating for future stimulus funding that prioritizes small businesses. And in SLO, we know that really all business is small business. So just a quick overview of that. I haven't had a chance to read the findings in its entirety, but I'm hopeful that you will look over that too. And thank you if you took that survey. Over the last 3 weeks, as I said last week, we have really been relying on our professional staff to respond to the crisis, but our board of directors will be meeting tomorrow morning, and we'll be doing a little bit of board business. So thank you to all the board members who are on the call. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, and we'll be reporting back on what some of the action items from that board meeting was tomorrow. So Garrett, if you want to talk a little bit about where we are in SLO County.
Yeah, so as of yesterday, we have 114 reported cases of COVID-19, still standing at 1 death in our county. And that haven't yet reached the peak of COVID-19, maybe something that we need to revisit. So as we look at the experience of cases reported in SLO County, we see that since the 3rd week of March, our local numbers have been gradually coming down. And that's actually really good news for what the dialogue we're now hearing coming out of the federal government regarding the reopening of businesses, the gradual re-engagement of businesses. There's some dialogue that perhaps COVID-19 isn't going to behave like a seasonal flu does, that it may just continue to persist regardless of changes in weather. And a lot of the dialogue now at the federal level about re-engaging the community business activity is more around local communities' experience with COVID-19. And it appears that our experience, the discipline with which we've been doing sheltering in place and adjusting many of our social norms have really positively impacted the local numbers we're seeing. And as a reminder, there are tests available. So if you or any of your employees or friends or family are feeling symptomatic, we would highly encourage you to go get tested. We do know that the shelter at home order is still in effect. And at least for those of you who you or your employees have students at the San Luis Coastal School District, we know that they are going to be reviewing their policy about the balance of this school year at a board meeting tomorrow night to determine whether or not school will resume this year or if they will continue to be remotely. We are continuing to go on the planning assumption that the shelter in place will likely extend beyond April, and that there may be a resurgence that we'll see once we do start to see communities transition to higher re-engagement. So there's some good information from the CDC and from our local county public health about the possibilities of us seeing a spike in cases when we re-engage. So rather than go through all that, I'll just reference it and let you read it on your own. But there is a threat that when we do start to re-engage, you will see more cases bubble up. So we just need to make sure that we do so in a very thoughtful manner. That's all I've got for this week's update.
Great, thank you so much, Garrett. We wanted to call on a few people to talk about what their individual experience has been through all of this. And so I'm going to give the floor over to Stephanie Stackhouse, a board member and member of the Downtown SLO Executive Committee.
Thanks, Bettina. Yeah, so I can talk to a couple of things, and if there's anything in particular that you want me to touch on, Bettina, please let me know. But I'm the owner of SLO Yoga Center, and we pivoted our business pretty quickly, even before we went into the order for shelter in place, to be offering some online options for classes, for yoga, for meditation, for fitness. And we are now offering about 30 live stream classes a week, in addition to continuing to put pre-recorded content on our site. For me, personally, that pivot to online has helped keep our members engaged. It's kept all of us, I think, mentally, persevering through this challenging time by being able to virtually connect with one another. And that's been a really nice sort of light at in the midst of all of the darkness that we've encountered. Also, for me personally, as a business owner, I've quickly gone on to lots of the applying for various funding. So I've applied for the EIDL loan. I did that on March 31st. Haven't heard anything back, but the process was very simple. It took about 10 minutes to do. So as Judy and her organization has been so helpful, it was really nice to be able to at least get the ball in motion that way, and highly encourage those of you who haven't done it to just do it. It's a very, very simple process. I've also applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, through lendio.com, which is a lending marketplace, and have gone through that process. Also very simple. It's about 15 minutes to go through that, as long as you have all of your information pulled together. I haven't gotten any updates on the status of that, aside from they're still working on it, they're still waiting. The SBA site has been inundated. But that process was also very straightforward. So encourage those of you who haven't gone through it to do that, and have continued to reach out to my local lender to also apply for PPP through them. Haven't received a response from them. I think that, like many lenders, they're overloaded. But continuing just to keep busy through this time is, I think, a lot of what us entrepreneurs and small business owners like to do in general. So I fall into that profile. And is there anything else, Bettina, that you wanted me to share?
No, I just think it's so helpful to hear your individual perspective. Excuse me. And I also totally appreciate you saying that you want to keep busy. I think that's a really big challenge that we're all facing. We're all doers, we're all makers. And it can be a little frustrating to have to just sit somewhere and feel like you're not making something happen. So thanks for sharing that experience. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to ask our board member, Carl Dudley, if he's on the call, to provide a little bit of a perspective on the what the experience has been like as a lender. So hi, Carl, how are you this morning?
Well, I can say that very briefly. It's living hell. I don't know any lender that hasn't been working as hard and diligently as possible to process. I think Stephanie probably said it best when she said she hasn't heard anything. We're in many cases at the same boat. The SBA is just overloaded. I do know that their portals crash frequently because of demand, and we just continue to process and to get them in line. I'm not really worried about funding running out. I think people, they hear people getting uh, uh, processed and getting their funds, and then the media will pick up on the fact that, you know, the money's going pretty quickly. And I don't believe that's necessarily the case. I do think Congress will add additional funds. The one thing that that Stephanie said that um, brings up a good point is, if you've applied with one lender, don't do multiple lenders. We are just so overloaded that if you've got an application in with someone, they're going to get to it as quickly as possible, and don't, that way we as other lenders aren't spending our bandwidth on someone that has multiple applications in. We're trying to take care of as many as possible. One thing I will caution, that pretty much all banks are doing their clients first. And then when we get through the bulk of them, then we will start doing non-clients, because we want our businesses to survive. But we have to take care, if you will, our own first. And that would be what you would expect of any bank. You asked me about the EIDL program. I honestly know very little about it. I barely know enough about the PPP because it changes frequently.
Thank you, Carl. Do you have any clients who have already received funding through the PPP?
We have clients in the bank. I have not heard of any of my clients receiving funding yet.
And do you have any idea about the timeline?
Well, we hope that we'll have information by tomorrow on a lot of our clients on what they will get. And once they get their SBA number, we have 10 days to fund them. And I doubt it'll take us that long, because in our case, I can't speak for other banks. We're very well funded. So we'll get it out as quickly as possible. And I think maybe it brings up another point that should be mentioned. This is a losing proposition for banks. So don't think that, you know, our banks are going to make a fortune off of this, because we don't. Our whole purpose of doing this, as holistic as it sounds, is so that you, the businesses, can survive. And we're just busting our butt to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time, and
Okay.
hopefully you can get back to processing those applications.
That's exactly where I'm going now.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Okay, so let's go back to sorry, I'm having some Zoom moments here. Give me some grace, please. Thank you very much. We now have some time for our stakeholder agencies to present. And after hearing about what the banks are doing, what the individual bank business owners are doing, let's hear from Judy Mahan at the SBDC. Judy, are you on the call? Nope. Do we not have a Judy? Okay, it looks like we do not have a Judy at this minute.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh,
Okay.
hi, sorry.
And-
Sorry about that. I was muted by the host, and so we figured it out. I'm here.
Judy, I'm going to help you with your 3-minute timer. I've tried to adopt the Chamber's Good Morning Slow approach, and when I stand up, nobody notices. So you'll hear a little jingle in the background when you're at 3 minutes. And so if you just wrap up your comments at that point, and if anybody has any questions specific for Judy, you can use the chat function to send them to her or to everybody in their group, and we'll make sure that we connect you. Thanks, Judy. Back to you.
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Bettina. Thank you for having me on board this morning. One thing I'm going to share right now, well, first of all, I want to thank the Slow Downtown Association. We've teamed up. Slow Downtown is going to join the SBDC task force program. So thank you so much for the support. We now have 5 task forces in place to help address client needs. One focused on banking, one on accounting, one on HR issues and concerns, another one for e-commerce, helping businesses that don't have a strong online presence. How do we help them grow their presence online to manage what's coming, how to adapt their business model. And the fifth task force with the SLO Downtown Association is to really focus on retail and restaurant needs right now in downtown. So we'll give you more information on that, as we develop this program this coming week with Bettina. So thank you for the support. I wanted to reiterate and back up Carl's comment. We've been told by the SBA, please only make one PPP application. They only want to see one application per business owner. So please don't shop around making half a dozen applications with different lenders. It clogs up and bottlenecks the process. It's not helpful in any way. So we're recommending to please just make one application. Regarding the EIDL loans, I do want to share an 800 number, and maybe we can share it on the chat. I have a number. I have clients who've been able to get through and talk to an SBA representative. The number works. You get to talk to a live person, and you can check on your EIDL application. It's 1-800-659-2955. 1-800-659-2955. Please, feel free to use that number. If you've made an EIDL application, you will get through to someone. We have been told from the time that the submission was made, we're now looking at about a 3-week period before getting a response. So 21 days, sit tight, but we are seeing EIDL loans come in. We are seeing loan advances come in. They started coming in they started early last week. So for those who were able to get in there March 31st, they should be seeing the EIDL loan advances coming in. A couple of updates. So we did receive a lot of questions about once you apply for PPP, how, do you need to maintain your number of employees? Do you need to maintain the level of your payroll? The loan, so I can confirm that the last SBA guidelines that we were sent stated very clearly that during the 8-week period after funding, so once you receive the loan, not as of June 30th, but from the date you receive the loan, the clock starts ticking for 8 weeks. During that 8-week period, you do need to maintain your employee count and your compensation levels. So if you do have to do some layoffs during that period and cannot maintain your full-time employee count, and if you are reducing wages to making cuts of 25% or more on your employee wage, those two factors will be taken into consideration at the time of loan forgiveness. So just something to keep in mind. The legislation was put in place to encourage employers to maintain employee count and maintain payroll levels. You do have that 8-week period to rehire employees that you've let go. So during that whole entire 8-week period, that's the time to hire people back on board if you had to let go of your employees. And I think that's, and another question that comes up very frequently, sorry, I was just checking my notes to make sure I cover the key bullets that we wanted to cover today. Payments are deferred for 6 months on PPP, but the interest does accrue during that time period. So you will be accruing interest. It's only 1%, but it does accrue during that 6-month period. And then the payments are deferred. So those are some of the key updates. Another big one that came out today, just this morning, is ag businesses can apply through PPP. Up until last week, the end of last week, we were referring ag-focused businesses, growers, to the USDA. But as of this morning, the USDA confirmed that ag operations can apply for PPP. So wineries that are growing grapes and just doing grapes, not doing any manufacturing, any of our farmers out there, please consider applying for PPP. It's available to you as a disaster loan.
Great. Thank you, Judy.
Any other questions that have come up?
Yeah, there was just a question in the chat from a person who's asking, how about salaried employees? So if you have a salaried employee whose work has been cut down, what are you recommending for that?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
I'm not able to clarify that, but I will jump in and say, okay, one thing that might be worth looking into is the work sharing program that's offered by the EDD. That's a really great resource if you are intending to keep your employees on and continue to pay them health benefits and retirement benefits, but you have to bring down their hours. There are some resources available through the EDD for that, but that's probably not what you're working on, Judy. So that's independent of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. We did get some questions about the SBA Express Disaster Bridge Loan. That's another tool that's available. However, I found out on Friday, it's a $25,000 loan. There's a very quick turnaround, 36 hours. I'm not sure if they can fulfill that, but that is what they're promising. It's only available from lenders who are already doing SBA Express loans with borrowers, and it's only available to business owners, borrowers who already have in place an Express loan, a regular SBA Express loan. So if you have an SBA Express loan in place prior to COVID, from that time period prior to COVID, you could qualify for another Express Disaster Bridge for another $25,000. So that's something to think about.
Okay. Great. Thank you very, very much, Judy. In the interest of time, we're going to move on. But if you do have direct questions for Judy, I would recommend reaching out to her directly, as she is fantastically responsive. And I thank you very much for your incredible work here. Let's go on to the next of our stakeholder agency reports. We've got Dan Tona, our friend from the Chamber. Jim, are you on the line?
I am, Bettina.
Hello.
How are you?
Jim? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me today. And good morning to your Downtown SLO members and the board. Certainly appreciating all the work we're doing together. It's in this really tumultuous time. So just kind of a quick update for us. We're working, as you know, we're partnering together, and hopefully your members are seeing some of our Small Business Saturday work with the city and Downtown SLO, really trying to make sure all of our audiences are doing their best to try and keep those small businesses going to get them through this crisis. Same with our Takeout Tuesday, same everybody's working on in the region, really trying to focus folks back on spending their money at our local establishments to try and make sure we protect those folks. And so we're so glad to be with the city and you on this effort in our local area. The Chamber in general, we've started a weekly webinar with your last guest, Judy Mahan. She's been great. She's been giving us an hour of her time on Thursdays from 2 to 3. And last week was a great conversation with her. And we had 2 members of banks, similar to, stating the similar things that Carl was just talking about, and how this organization, or how we've tried to formulate a national program in 14 days. And obviously there's some hiccups in it. We had about 350 people attend our last webinar. And what we keep coming up with is that people have a lot of questions, as we saw with, I know Miriam, I know Steve and Patrick was on ours I keep seeing the questions are coming from him. So this week's webinar, actually on ours on Thursday, is a Q&A with Judy and the SBDC. So if you want to head over to our page and register, you can put your questions in early, and we can just go ahead and get those out to her so we can answer them immediately. Regarding the independent contractors, your salaried employees, you can write it out in much more form so that she'll have a chance to sit down with her team and maybe bring those answers directly. So just head over to the SLO Chamber Facebook page. You can find the event for this Thursday from 2 to 3. Last Thursday we had 70 questions And I think we got through like 30, and they did a great job ripping through those 30, but that still left 40. So we feel like a Q&A was really helpful. I would also recommend our regional chambers we joined together with the US Chamber to do a presentation on the CARES this Tuesday. Tomorrow, South County Chamber of Commerce is hosting that one. So if you go down there and sign up, the US Chamber will be giving us a briefing on all of that. And I think more importantly, I'm hoping what they'll cover is less about exactly where we are today with the CARES Act, but what does the next line look like if there is a next line? So we know that's a big deal that's happening. And so I would recommend heading over there. I think it's tomorrow at 1 p.m. Don't quote me on it, but check on the South County Chambers, or you can find it on the SLO Chamber website. We've forwarded it out on there or on our Facebook page. So looking to just try and make sure our business are getting all the information. So appreciative of all the work you're doing at Downtown SLO to make sure our community hangs in there just to get through this. And like you, we're trying to set the example and follow those recommendations so that hopefully this tough time is a shorter time because we flatten that curve. So thank you for all you're doing, Bettina, and for the team over at Downtown SLO.
Great. Thank you, Jim. And good job sticking to the time. I can tell that your Good Morning SLO training has
paid off.
paid off. That's right. That's right. Good to see you. And we look forward, for all of those out there who are looking for something to do, I assure you that there is no shortage of amazing content that you can watch through various webinars from every single organization. So yeah, we will tune into both the Tuesday Chamber thing and also the Thursday webinar with Judy, where you can ask all your questions. Thank you. All right, up next, we're going to ask Courtney Kino from Cal Poly to jump in and tell us what's going on at Cal Poly. It looks like you're on campus, or is that a Zoom background today?
Well, I'm in my kitchen. That is a Zoom background for sure. Thank you so much for letting me do this update, Bettina, and for all you're doing. We can't say that enough. And I want to acknowledge we have Mark Borges, ASI president, on the call, as well as Bob Linscheid, the Senior Advisor for Economic Development for Cal Poly. So some really influential people in terms of the campus population, and grateful they are engaged as well. In terms of Cal Poly updates, you may have seen this week that the corporation, which is an auxiliary of Cal Poly, had to lay off or furlough about 2,600 part-time and temporary workers over the past few weeks, which is pretty significant. We are looking at the CARES Act as well for how we can engage it with our corporation. We still have about 1,000 essential employees on campus each week, so continuing to keep the campus moving. You probably have seen that the alternative care site is up and running, although there are no patients there yet, with the first 165 beds, which are ready to receive care receive patients should it be needed. Enrollment is holding strong. As you all know, we have gone entirely virtual this quarter, and we weren't sure what the impact for students would be, but we are really on target with where we projected to be despite going virtual. And I said this last week, but I think it's worth reiterating that we have about 500 students that remain on campus, so in campus housing, and those are international students or students that for one reason or another could not return to their homes. So they are still receiving dining services and everything on campus, although like so many restaurants and others downtown, that's to go only, so they're receiving those meals that way. And I think that's it for today.
Thank you, Courtney. Yeah, I know you and I were on a couple of calls last week, and we wanted to just reiterate the point that Cal Poly is not closed. It has just changed the way that the classes and the operations are ongoing. So it certainly is disheartening to wander through the community and not see the students their liveliness and just their presence. But there are a number of people who are still on campus and also living in the community who are our neighbors and our friends. So thank you for that. Okay, our next community stakeholder update is going to be from Molly Kano. Molly, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Molly.
Awesome. Hi, how are you guys? Okay, so a few updates for you all in regards to the city. As I mentioned last week during this call, the city has launched a virtual shopping map. So last week, I was talking about that virtual shopping map being available to the businesses at that point in time to enter in their information, and now that has actually gone out to the public as well. So that rolled out to the public last Friday, and we've actually already seen over 2,000 views and uses of that map. So that's encouraging for us. We're seeing that people are using that resource and that tool as a place to find their means or their ability to be able to help support some of our local businesses, even in that online shopping scenario. So we're encouraged to see that. Our restaurant map, which we launched at the end of March, is continuing to perform very well. Again, showing us that the community is really utilizing this resource as a tool to be able to find information. We've seen, since that launched at the end of March, we've seen now over 9,000 views or uses of that map. So I encourage you to, if you've not already listed your business on there, should you have online shopping, virtual shopping, or if you're a restaurant and have takeout, curbside, or delivery options available, please utilize these resources. They're definitely being used. In addition to that, the city has made some updates over the past week in regards to our COVID-19 section of our website. And so we're continuing to build that out, provide more content, and be able to get you to the right resources that you need, both as a community member and as a business within the community to be able to find that information. So I encourage you to go and check that out on the city's website, slocity.org/COVID-19. Within the business resource section of that, and one addition that we made this past week, I had talked with you last week about the signs that are available to download that kind of unite and pull us all together. However, we've also created a physical distancing or social distancing sign as well. We've been hearing from businesses that even though they are offering curbside takeout or delivery options, that they're feeling the need to make sure that they are being very visual with their clients coming in about how to queue up and whatnot. And so we've created a sign that you can download and print out and be able to hang that right on your business to help also reinforce that that the physical distancing or social distancing is part of the city's efforts here. So I encourage you to go ahead and do that. Last week, we also talked about some of the positive projects and things that are moving forward despite the COVID-19 pandemic that we're in. One additional project that I wanted to share with you all this week was our steps to move forward with a mural that will be going around. And I see Bettina's face light up with this one. That's what we like to see. So we will be muraling the parking arch that's around the Marsh Street structure. So basically, as you drive into the Marsh Street structure, there is an arch way that you go under. You may have noticed it, you may not, but you'll notice it now. This is a project that's been in the works for about 6 to 8 months and was approved and was going through the process prior to COVID-19. And so we did get the green light that we can continue to move forward with that project and be able to add some beautifying enhancements to the downtown. So when we are back open for business, there is some new life and bright color to share in our community.
So exciting. Thank you for sharing that good news. And yes, that is going to be so beautiful and so exciting to see. So Thank you for your insights, Molly. We're excited to have you on our call. And on the note about social distancing graphics downtown, I was downtown yesterday, and there's some great graphics that the San Luis Obispo collection actually put up on some of their properties. And I think that I have, I actually might have to hold my phone up just to show you the picture, because this is, welcome to Zoom land. Hopefully you can see this, but it says keep your distance there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's on the corner near Hotel SLO. And then there's another one that says soap and water. So wash your hands is the message there. So thanks to the San Luis Obispo collection for working on that. And we also, on our group of economic development stakeholders, we usually have Melissa James from REACH, or formerly the Hourglass Project, but she's unable to join us today. So today I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into the work that's being done on the county level to try to move into a recovery planning area. And what that means is that we know that we're not to the recovery yet, but we're going to be looking at that and planning for it. And I'm delighted to report that Downtown SLO will absolutely be a part of this effort. This is a screenshot of the new Central Coast Economic Recovery website, and you can see our logo down here along with a number of community partners, including the SLO Chamber, all of the county chambers, the SBDC, the EVC, all the cities in the county and the county. So we are going to be moving forward with that, and I will be representing the 625 businesses in our district, as well as the couple thousand employees and the jobs and the cultural institutions that make our downtown SLO neighborhood such a vital part of our economy. So I'll look forward to sharing more information with you on that as it becomes available. Wanted to just also remind you that downtownslo.com continues to be updated daily, including our takeout and delivery map, guides to online shopping, and that your support for downtown businesses matters now more than ever. So please continue to use that. We are pushing out that We Are Downtown SLO graphics. If you have a compelling story that you would like to include about your business, please reach out to us. You can email us at reachus@downtownslo.com. We're particularly interested in people who've done creative pivots so that we can showcase your creativity and resilience during this process. And if you are joining us through our Downtown SLO Businesses Facebook group, thank you for being there. We hope that this can be a place for you to connect privately one-on-one. This is an invite-only group. You have to be approved to be a part of it. We will approve pretty much anybody, but we are trying to keep it a little bit more insulated so that there's not stuff that's not relevant or germane to our downtown neighborhood. Want to ask Garrett to jump in now and talk a little bit about some of the surveys and polls that we conducted in last week's Zoom meetings. Garrett?
Thank you. And just as a reminder, we're asking mostly the same questions week over week so we can track where you are in your business to position Bettina and her team to be able to be leaning in on those things that are most pressing to you. So this is a snapshot from next week, but moving forward, we're going to start to tell the story of how your needs and perspectives have transitioned over time or stayed consistent over time. And so right now we see that the vast majority of folks, when asked about your current employer-employee payroll reality, the vast majority of you are continuing with your pre-COVID staffing and don't anticipate changing that in the near future, which is fantastic. We do see that oh, there we go. No, you can go forward. Sorry, I don't have control. It's one of those Zoom things. And we know that right now, again, a very positive sign is that the vast majority of you are stating that your business is on sure financial footing. So we know that's a week old, and in a couple minutes, we're going to open the surveys up again and let you weigh in. Go ahead and forward one. And over this next coming week, the most pressing concern last week was the lack of short-term revenue from customers and clients. And we anticipate that that this is going to continue as we continue with our shelter in place. So we'll be asking that question again, but just wanted to give you a sense of it. And it does look like many of you have diversified your business activities, that's not your most pressing need, which is a great sign of your entrepreneurship and your ability to pivot in the moment. And then in terms of advocating for you, last week the most pressing issue was on rent freeze or assistance, and we know that some local governments have been leaning forward with that. And I don't know if Molly, if you're in a position to talk about what the SLO City Council has been considering. You're also looking for resources for laid off employees, and certainly questions that you can be asking about enhanced unemployment benefits. And I believe that's it. So it gets back to the team, and Bettina, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, so just wanted to jump back in and remind you that our team is working for you, even though we're not as visible as we were when we were all in the same neighborhood together. So we're really focusing on trying to get you that short-term revenue from your customers by using and building out our virtual downtown and making sure that that's up to date. Please let us know if your business operations have changed, and we'd be happy to push that out to our followers through social media and also through our media contacts. We're also just looking at telling the downtown story and connecting with you and sharing with the public. So we're continuing to do our outreach phone calls. Hopefully you've heard from one of our two ambassadors, Stefan Georgopoulos and Austin Bertucci. They are going to be cycling back through the list. So they've made it about halfway down the list of our first floor businesses, and they will be picking up and going back to the beginning to see, now that we're 3 weeks into this, how those businesses that maybe were at the beginning of the list have been affected. We're also continuing to do some significant radio promotion. Just wanted to jump in on and share a little more about that. Our farmers market manager, Whitney Cheney, goes on the radio on 4 different stations with American General Media weekly to promote the farmers market. And even though we're not doing the farmers market each week, we've kept those radio spots, and we're using that as a way to connect listeners out there with stories about downtown businesses. So last week, Whitney invited Josh Christensen from Sidecar to talk about what their business is doing. And she's going to continue to use that as a way to push out very cool pivots that your businesses have done. So at this time, I think we have some questions that we might be willing to answer. But first, we're going to go into the poll. So as Garrett mentioned, we're asking the same questions week over week. And this is so that we can try to develop the best work plan for our organization and our collective work that we do for you, advocating for your businesses, making sure you're connected to the resources that you need. So we have the polls up on the screen here, and please cycle through those. I believe that the Zoom will start to show, at least on my screen, I get to see you answering in real time. Garrett, is that what you're seeing on your screen as well?
Yeah, as soon as people complete it, it'll populate the results, and then we'll share those back with you. And we are asking the same questions, but you may notice that we are changing some of the responses as issues emerge. So like if you look at question number 3, there's an opportunity for you to, the last response is setting you up for success by providing you with guidance regarding PPP and enhanced unemployment benefits. That's a new response this week. So we're refreshing the options for you, but we do want to continue to track where you are week over week.
It's interesting too, if you'll recall at the beginning of our session today, I shared some information from the Main Street America National Survey of businesses. And I didn't notice it until I looked at the results, but we're asking a lot of the same questions that they asked in the national survey. And I bring this up because I think it's important to note, we're all saying we're all in this together a lot, but what we are experiencing here and the questions that we're experiencing here are amplified and sent out throughout the country. And we're asking, I think, the right questions at this time. We're on the right track. We're trying to do the best that we can. We want to hear from you if there's something that you think we should be doing differently. If there are resources that you believe we should be putting in a different direction, please let us know. And it's fascinating to see how we're all kind of coming up with similar solutions and asking the same questions, even though we're so separate during this time. I'm going to give it just a few more minutes for you all to answer these polls. And if you've got any other questions you'd like to share, if you don't feel comfortable sharing them with the entire group, you can message them privately to me or Garrett, and we'd be happy to answer those in the remaining time that we have together. Our goal is to end this call at 11 o'clock. I will be joining a call with REACH and the Economic Response Planning team for the county after this.
So just looking at the results before we close it out, again with number 3, we're seeing that the most pressing need is for rent freeze or assistance. And what's wonderful is Molly Kano is on the line representing the city, and we'll be taking that message back to the city. So not only does this poll give an opportunity for Bettina and her team to advocate for you directly, but also folks that are key stakeholders to be able to see your thoughts and take those back to make use of those. So thank you for responding.
Yeah, and I was, I'm not sure if Molly is still out there. I was watching the city council meeting that took place on Tuesday night. The concept of taking a rent freeze to the city council for discussion as an agendized item did come up at the Tuesday city council meeting, but there was not consensus moving forward to actually put that on the agenda. So I actually do not believe that the city will be discussing that any further at this time.
Thank you, and I think that Rachel just unmuted me because I was nodding, but I couldn't. I couldn't talk. Yes, the item was brought up to council. Council did have robust conversation about reaching a consensus to direct staff to bring that item back. There was not consensus by the city council to take that action. So this has not been an item that council has agendized for future consideration.
Thanks, Molly. And like everything, these facts and the nature of who is responsible for what in the authority funnel, we continue to try to decipher that in real time along with everybody else.
So the poll's now closed and you can see our results. And again, we'll be revisiting these and sharing them back with you next week, and also taking a look at how your perspectives and feedback via the polls has transitioned over the last few weeks. So thank you for that.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So my closing words for you all today are to please remember to breathe and drink lots of water and read some fiction and watch some escapist television, because while it's really important for us to stay informed and be connected to all of the news as it's developing, it's also really important to nurture our minds and nurture our hearts. I hope that you are well. I hope that you are washing your hands, and I hope that you're able to connect with your loved ones, whether they're near or far. We will look forward to connecting with our board members on tomorrow morning's board meeting, and also with our committee members in the coming weeks. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to be with us on this Monday. I hope this call sends you off into another week of sheltering at home with a full heart and a full brain. Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm screen capturing our survey results.
Thank you.
Just in case they don't save. Ooh.
I got them all, Garrett.
Oh, you got them. Awesome. Okay. They should be saving, but I just, as a backup, just want to make sure. Wonderful job, Bettina.
Thank you. Lots of content today. Lots of.
Yeah. And the speakers did a fantastic job of staying on point and within the allotted time. So really well done. I was sending them messages when they were done, telling them thank you for what they did.
Great.
Cool.
Okay.
Oops. Anything else? As soon as we close this out, it'll start compiling the recording and I'll save it and then send you the link.
Okay. Wonderful.